Detective Mark Reynolds had been chasing the elusive serial killer known as the Nightshade for months. The city of Eldon was gripped in fear as the body count rose with each passing week. The killer's signature was always the same, a single black rose left on the chest of each victim. Mark had dedicated himself to the case, poring over evidence, chasing leads, and enduring sleepless nights haunted by the gruesome crime scenes. But no matter how hard he pursued, the Nightshade remained one step ahead. One chilly autumn evening, Mark received a tip from an informant about a possible sighting of the killer in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he raced to the scene, his gun drawn and his heart pounding in his chest. As he crept through the dilapidated building, his senses on high alert, Mark could feel the weight of the past murders pressing down on him like a suffocating blanket. The stench of decay hung heavy in the air, and the sound of his own footsteps echoed eerily off the walls. Suddenly, a movement caught his eye, and Mark spun around, his finger tightening on the trigger. But it was only a rat scurrying across the floor, and he cursed under his breath, his nerves frayed to the breaking point. Just then, he heard a soft rustling sound coming from the shadows ahead. With a surge of adrenaline, he charged forward, his gun held steady in his trembling hands. But as he rounded the corner, he froze in horror at the sight before him. There, standing amidst a sea of black roses, was the Nightshade. The killer's face was obscured by the darkness, but Mark could feel the weight of their gaze boring into his soul. "Freeze!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the empty space. "You're under arrest!" But instead of fleeing, the Nightshade stepped forward, their movements slow and deliberate. And as they drew closer, Mark felt a chill run down his spine, for he could see now that the killer's eyes were filled with a madness beyond comprehension. In that moment, something inside Mark snapped, and he realized with a sickening sense of dread that he knew the truth. The killer he had been hunting all this time was none other than himself. As the realization washed over him, Mark's vision swam with a crimson haze, and he knew that he was lost. For in the darkness of his own soul, he had become the very thing he had sworn to destroy. And as the last vestiges of his sanity slipped away, Mark raised his gun to his temple, the barrel cold against his skin. And with a final anguished cry, he pulled the trigger, sealing his fate as just another victim of the Nightshade's reign of terror.